People have been writing in for law directors.
Don't you only need one?
Well, at least you.
He's been telling people to write in his name.
Yeah, that's
Where are you going to eat at? That's what I want to know.
I always say it wrong.
Huh?
Place in Mobile.
That's
We
not
always call it here.
See, Mal.
Yo, we guys, you could.
Oh, she's there, never mind.
Yo, how's me?
Here he is. Hop along.
Yes, we are.
Talk.
We're on?
We're on.
Yeah.
We're on.
Okay, I'd like to
We
call
are.
this caucus meeting in order.
There he is.
Now let's at the beginning of the committee, we're gonna convene your committee and we're gonna add number 2.
All good.
Okay? Okay, I'll be looking for a motion to dispense with the reading of the minutes of the first regular meeting, dated Wednesday, October 11th, 2023, except prepared by the clerk. Communications, we have 3 pieces. Questions or comments on communication?
And a response.
And if not, Mayor's report. Mayor Miller, do you have anything to make?
Wait, yes, Ricky was asking. I think Ricky had something. Yeah.
But
Why
there's
don't
no,
he talk, speak
No
up?
response.
I did.
What do you want?
It's okay, I asked him, I already got the
He
answer.
wanted to know if JP ever responded to me,
Oh.
and the answer is no.
Wow.
I called, and then I called, and then I texted him to make sure he at least got the email. Didn't hear anything.
Really?
Anyway,
Oh, boy.
Mayor's report, Mayor Miller.
Yes. We will have trick or treating on Tuesday, October 31st from 5 to 7. Please drive with caution and be mindful of the construction along some of the streets. Creek Street will be closed from Garfield to Euclid for any through traffic. We did that last year and it worked pretty well. That's probably one of the most highly visited streets. Thank you to everyone who has voted and participated in the Halloween contest. Winners will be announced at the City Council meeting tonight on October 25th, and we're going to wait until the meeting to announce that. So we have the winner for the online competition, and then we also have the winner for the city employee vote. And we actually had a good, decent turnout. We copied it for everybody, so we'll announce that during the meeting. The annual Rotary Pancake Breakfast will be held on Sunday, November 5th from 8 to 1 at the Struthers High School cafeteria. Donations are $8 for adults and $5 per child. Those go to support scholarships for the schools. We also that day have the Phipps Family Memorial, their 3rd annual chili cook-off on Sunday, November 5th from 1 to 4 at Gambet's. So it'll be following the pancake breakfast. There will be a 50-50 and a basket raffle. And then we also have Struthers Unleashed will be hosting their first stuffed pepper dinner fundraiser at Christ Lutheran Church in Struthers from 2 to 6. There will be a 50-50 and basket raffle. All proceeds will go towards raising funds for the dog park. Please visit their website for more information. And then we also, it's not included here on my report, but I did want to add the Struthers Elementary PTO. They are having their first trunk or treat. That is at Nevo baseball fields from 6 to 7:30. So I don't know if anybody is participating in that from council, but anybody from the Struthers City School System, the kids are more than willing to attend that. And that is all that I have.
What's the date on that stuffed pepper dinner? There's no date on it.
You are right, Ronnie. There is no date on there. That's
Just
November
show up
4th.
any day.
Just show up to the church and they'll just give you peppers. That is November 4th.
November 4th.
Yes.
Okay.
For you.
So it's that Saturday. I did not catch that.
Limit 2 peppers.
Okay, is there any questions or comments for our mayor? If none, standing committees. Dallas, can you convene your committee to
Yeah,
add number 2?
you got it. I'd like to call this finance and legislation meeting to order. Mr. Bayes?
I'm here.
Mr. Ballack? Here. Mr. Bigley is present. We have one piece in front of us from Mayor Miller and SSD Benson. And it is an ordinance adopting the collective bargaining agreement between the City of Struthers and the International Association of Firefighters effective November 1st, 2023 through October 31st, 2026 and declaring an emergency. Anybody want to speak on this at all?
Yes, the reason you have this in front of you tonight is because we settled this a lot quicker than we anticipated. So we wanted to try to get this in before the contract ended, which is October 31st. So this is our last regular council meeting before that happens. So for counting purposes, instead of having to retro pay according to the contract, we wanted to try to get this in. The changes are listed there, I believe. There's a letter from Clemens and Nelson regarding there's a summary of the changes on there. But again, we felt the negotiations that we were in went very well. Just a lot quicker than anticipated.
What is council's pleasure on this? Would you guys rather look this over the next week and bring it out next week? Would you rather take a few minutes, go over it right now?
I'd rather go over it right now and let's get
Yeah.
it done.
Fair enough.
There's really nothing we
What
can
is,
do.
what
No.
is, what is
No.
the wage increase, everything
We can
else?
try,
over the
but-
period of time?
No.
They went,
Let's get it
for the
done.
3 years,
Okay,
it was 5-5-5. for the-
5, and they are happy with that?
We had a great negotiation.
Good.
I mean, 5 strong.
Absolutely.
This is
That's-
one of the best contracts we were able to give, but one of the other things that we had to take into consideration was their jobs have changed since everything is going on with the ambulances. So we did also put in there a bonus for if they received their paramedic or their EMT.
Just gonna ask you if there was an incentive for
Yes,
this.
and they were, we both kind of came to the table and it was, we all agreed. We know that we have to do something there, because their responsibilities have changed
And
drastically.
financially, our projection for the next few years is that this isn't a problem affording this, and I'm assuming Chrissy has went over that and projected that as well.
Yes, we always, before we go to the table, we talk with Chrissy beforehand to see what we can and can't do. But we're gonna try to give the departments as much as we can with still being fiscally responsible to
Sure.
the city.
Okay.
And we feel like this is a very strong contract.
Well, keeping good employees is obviously a very important
Yes.
part of business, so if we have to tighten up somewhere else, I would expect that we could tighten up somewhere else down the road
Yes.
and give these guys what they deserve. Okay?
So I have a question. If we test and hire new, is there a way to kind of say that we want them to have their EMT? Is there a way to do that?
So right now,
New hires?
as of 2019, the law changed where they have to have their EMT basic. So anybody that we hire already has that. We can put that into a civil service test, we can make that a requirement.
But that wouldn't have to go into this contract.
No, this
No.
contract will give them a bonus if they get an EMT advance.
Okay.
You get a bonus. If you become a full paramedic, then you get another bonus on top of that.
And I could see that, Lori, but in my thinking is, if we're having a hard enough time getting people outright, maybe not put that as a full-on requirement, if we could still hire somebody and they have intentions on getting that in first year.
We're using this to try to entice too,
Yeah.
like come here, come
Yeah,
get your.
I mean, I
Yeah.
think that most departments are gonna go to that, I mean, they are already going to that. And I just think we're in a bad situation with that ambulance. And I think if we care about the city, that's one thing we make
Sure, I just don't wanna make it any harder for us to find employees.
Wow.
It seems like
You need the
that,
right employee to fill the job.
but
so
if you have
it
no
doesn't matter.
employee, that job does not get done at all. So I agree
Well,
with
then we
you,
have to compete with
but that is
but-
also, I feel like that's somebody who has never went through the challenge of, what are we gonna do tomorrow because we have nobody to fill this shift? That's well, on my experience, that's what I would say
Yeah.
to that. You know what I mean? Like, what do we do tomorrow? Right now, we don't have anybody to do this. What do we do?
And what are we gonna do the next 1, 2, 3, or 4 years, like we got maybe 4 guys
So
leaving?
I agree with you that it would be
So
great.
you prepare for
It
that.
would be
No,
great.
You do, but then you obviously have to.
But we still have the
Pay
two
more.
part-timers, right?
Right, we still have the
Per
part-time.
diem, basically.
Yes, the part-time.
But we know that that hasn't really been a foolproof plan thus far.
It hasn't, but I can tell you, I went down to a CERB meeting in Columbus and talking with a lot of different people from the entire state. This is a crisis amongst the whole
Yes.
state, like it's
EMTs.
the EMTs, the ambulance. So we feel we're doing the best that we can right now with what we have, but we actually have a meeting tomorrow with another company. We've been meeting with companies to try to figure out what's the best for right now, what's the best for the future. So
And I think
and if you, Mr. Burns said, you know, we've been going to meetings back and forth, this has been an ongoing thing for a couple of
Lori,
years now.
your head isn't 100% in the right place.
Mhm.
I'm just more like,
Yeah.
let's not hamstring ourselves by saying we're only gonna hire people with this requirement. We don't get very many people with this requirement and we're stuck not having enough people.
Yeah, but here's the
But
thing.
it's also become a standard too.
Yeah, it's gonna become a standard.
And,
It is in a lot
when that
of
becomes a
these-
standard, then everybody will have that, so it won't be an issue. But currently, it's not a standard, so not everybody
Someone
has
to
it.
start that
You know
being
what
a
I mean?
standard.
What kind
Yeah,
of
you got-
incentive is there right now?
But
I
what
mean,
happens
now
is if
for-
we start that standard and not everybody else does, they go to the places that don't have that standard. That's just common sense.
But that's why we put a bonus in there, so if you receive your EMT advanced, it's a $3,000 bonus payable in December, and if you receive your paramedics license, then it's a $5,000 bonus.
That's
So
just a bonus, one-time bonus here.
No,
Every year.
just every year.
Every year.
Yes,
Yeah.
so, and that's
Okay.
what we're hoping, is
Yeah,
we have
so-
people test, and that's enough of something
Of an
to
incentive.
draw them.
Sure.
to-
That would be a nice
Here-
incentive, yeah.
Yeah.
Our
Are we
department, our
covering
guys,
the
the
cost of
city, we're hoping that
education for that?
stays. Right now, it's free, so right now it's being covered by the state. When and if that happens, where they're not covering anymore, that's where we're gonna probably have some kind of MOU in place, because we may have to eat the cost on that, but right now, there is none.
Yeah, we could probably have an agreement with them when they get hired that they have to
Yeah.
work towards that.
And you're probably
Within
right.
so many
At
months.
some point,
100%.
we will incorporate those that $5,000 bonus into their annual salary and then require them to meet those
Yes.
demands at that point. So we have to.
But when do we test then? When we're because a test is coming up, right?
No, not for fire.
Not for fire? Okay.
We'll test when we have a vacancy. We should hopefully be having a test for wastewater here soon. And we don't have a vacancy for police right now either. So
Okay.
wastewater will be the only test that we foresee. But like Rick said, we will have a lot of retirements with the fire department in the next few years. So that test will be something we rely on. to
Yeah.
replace
And
those
hopefully
guys.
then we'll have something with the ambulance that we know a little bit more, or,
We're hoping, right now, they're going to the legislators and they're going to the commissioners, the county, the state, and they're trying to find one big answer for everything. And I don't know that they're making any headway. We're trying to just deal with what we have and figure out where we fit and the best that we can. So we're ahead of the game in some ways, because we have our ambulance, we have the department, we have the legislation on the books where other places don't. But it's still not good enough, and it's still not where
I
we
haven't
want
heard
to be.
anything recently. Well, no, I mean, about ambulance calls and things like that.
Our calls
but-
for this past, I just looked at the report, our calls for this past month are way, way down. But
Okay.
that could be for a couple of different reasons.
Nobody's out.
EMT, ambulance service that provides service to Youngstown and Camel, have been taking a lot of our calls. So we haven't been responding as much because they're coming on scene. We had a call here today at City Hall, EMT came to this on scene.
Yeah.
So our actual response times have been, a lot less. We've had like 7 for the whole month.
Now, do we have to cover the cost of that when they come?
No, they do the billing the same as we do. If they respond and take the patient, then they bill the same as we would if we took the patient. So that's another issue that we gotta sort out where we wanna go with that too, so,
We had one in court today, right?
yes.
That's what he's talking about.
Yeah.
And EMT was able to come on scene.
Yeah.
Okay, we still have the legislation before us. Motion to bring it out.
I think we're all right with the majority motion to bring it out.
I'll second that.
That's all for legislation for this committee. Does anybody else have anything for this committee? Motion. Oh, yeah. Next week is November 1st, 2023, Finance and Legislation Committee meeting at 6 o'clock. Call for adjournment.
Motion.
I'll second it.
Meeting adjourned. Yep.
Okay, so you set, finance next Wednesday, 1st, 6 PM. Any other committees for next week?
It's a heavy.
When's Jen coming? Is that
That's what I was it's in December. I think December 6th, yeah. So Jen from Aqua will meet with us on December 6th. That would be just during a committee meeting.
Your other committee for next week? Okay. Legislation, we have 3 pieces, questions or comments under legislation. Any unfinished business? New business?
I got one under new business. I received a few phone calls about the work that's being done on the road. And, I guess the small patches that are being done, are we not requiring?
They're repairing, they were repairing them today. So a lot of them were getting repaired, actually getting repaired today.
The complaints that I'm receiving are they going to center line?
Yep. It went all the way across.
Okay, so
Yep.
all of the little
The
ones
section
that,
street with, we actually had to close Euclid today because it went all the way across the street. All the other ones are going to the center line.
even
Terrace Street,
the small ones, like
Yep.
Midlothian, well, Midlothian's a bigger one, but
The
like.
Midlothian, I brought that up.
well, the Midlothian is that's a different company, that's the gas
Gas
company.
But they're aware of our
Yeah.
middle line policy,
And
correct?
Tom has talked to them about
Okay,
that match.
okay,
Okay.
very good, thank you. That's all.
Any other new business? Report of our law director, John?
I have no report this evening.
Okay, John, since this is your time, the letter you wrote to Mr. Lasco, can you tell us where you're at, what's going on with that?
As I said earlier, I emailed the letter to Mr. Lasco. A couple days later, I called him up to talk about it, left a voicemail. Did not receive a response, so I sent him a text message just asking if he would acknowledge that he received the letter, and he did not respond in any way to my text message.
So he's had no communication with the administration regarding this?
Like I say, he's had no communication with me.
Okay.
So what is the policy as far as replacement goes?
So we will remove, as head of the civil service, we're waiting on a few people to answer me whether or not they can take that position, and then we'll reappoint that way.
Okay.
Not to speak for the mayor, but I think the problem was you can get rid of him, but who are you gonna put there? And she's been trying to find somebody
Sure.
that we could put there, so.
You can
Okay.
always speak for me.
Any other questions for the law director? The auditor's not here. Bob, safety director, you have anything?
I just got a communication today from DLZ. That's the company we have designing our Wetmore Street Bridge. They ran into an issue where they have to do some more drilling and do some lateral stress work. And they're asking us to amend our contract with them to include, I'll give you the actual price, $7,680. They have to drill shafts for lateral load analysis. They had to go deeper on the two abutments than what they thought they would have to do. So now they have to do lateral stress analysis because of that. And they're asking for amended contract, $7,680.
What are we paying them now?
We're paying for the design, right?
This is all design. The current contract is $189,790.
And they want 7,000 more.
Yes.
This is the one where we got the this is the
Yeah,
$950,000
still, I
grant.
You know, when you
What-
bid on something like that, you should be
Well,
able
this
to
was-
cover all angles.
This is like a change order, because this wasn't anticipated that they would have to do lateral stress.
What is the total cost again? I'm sorry. 180.
89 something?
Yeah. $189,790.
Is that with the 7,600?
No,
So it's not.
Divided by 7,600 roughly?
yes, 7,600.
Which is normal change rate of 10%. Well, less
It's
than
less.
10%.
Less than 10%?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's,
Oh, yeah, it's like.
Percentage-wise,
3%.
it's within the allow, I mean, general is you're not gonna go over 10%
It's-
without either a change order,
it's-
which it seems like they're basically doing now.
It's not truly a change order because we haven't started construction. This is just, they're asking for money because the additional tests are being required that they didn't anticipate on the site.
You could look at it two ways. You could look at it like they should have anticipated this because that's their job, or you could look at it like this is about a 6% extra cost, which at the end of the day, that stuff does happen in jobs. If it consistently keeps to happening.
Yeah, but then what if a
Yeah, but they
change
haven't
order
even
comes
started.
out?
I agree, that's why I said you're gonna have to.
Change order,
Again, again.
I
change
mean,
order,
this is just engineering.
this is,
Yes.
You know,
right.
this has nothing to do with construction.
No, it
Correct.
doesn't. So change orders will be addressed through the ODOT fund.
Right.
Okay, those are, change, this is not a change order, it's just a request for, they have to do additional work, and they're asking
they
for
have to bid
permission
on
to
that?
do.
Or they didn't have to bid on that, right?
Not on this, no.
So we're-
I have a problem with it.
Yeah,
I
so
get it.
where is that money coming out of then?
Out of our fund. We locally have to pay for design.
Right, we understood that,
Yeah,
So,
but they gave us a price.
But and also, I mean, again, we only signed on to spend
Right.
$189,000,
Okay, so-
not $195,000.
you can look at it this way too. If I tell them, no, we're not gonna pay you the extra $7,600, they don't do the lateral stress test. Okay? I don't know what's gonna happen to the bridge if they don't do the lateral stress test, and if they do the test and it fails, then they can make adjustments for it. If they don't do the test, they don't know if it's going to fail.
But
Yeah.
the bridge isn't up yet, I'm confused.
No, but they,
Yeah.
I guess
Testing
everybody's
for the new
point is,
bridge.
as a professional, you should have known what was required
Well,
of you before you start a
Yeah,
project.
how did
Yeah,
they
you
even
can't-
have?
you
This
can't
may
do
have,
that.
this may have occurred.
You
Don't
can't,
you give quotes with that in mind?
no.
That's what I'm saying.
No,
Yeah.
because you look at the site and they anticipate certain tests, and they did those tests. And they found out that those tests did not meet the minimum requirements, so they had to go further tests.
Okay.
And that's what this is. They said, okay, bridge should have been simple, we should have put the abutments right here, dig down 20 feet, we're good. They're saying we dug down 20 feet, it's not good. Now we have to do a lateral stress test and make sure that it's still gonna be stable. That's
So
basically-
they have to do an additional testing because
Because the
another
test-
test has failed.
Yes.
Yeah,
That-
don't you have that, what ifs in your contract?
And they might have what ifs in there, and I bet you if we went through their contract, there is additional work outside of that,
The co-
that the
So-
scope of work is gonna be
The
at
the scope of
the
work
city's
is
cost.
listed in the contract that we approved,
Yeah.
and what they were supposed to do, and everything that, I mean, it's
I would
it's a
probably
lengthy
say it's
contract,
in
and everything that they were supposed to do. And that's what we agreed to.
there. John wrote that contract, it would have been in there.
Absolutely would have been.
Yeah, I mean,
I mean,
I
You
get
all-
it,
they're professionals.
I
They
get
looked
it.
at the site, they realized what kind of
I-
testing
I-
they needed to do,
I deal with it
and then all
every
of a
day.
sudden, they need
They want more.
$7,000 more on top of $189,000? That's a lot of money. Just for engineering.
Yep. It is.
I don't,
I'm not happy with it.
I don't think we're gonna have a way around
No, I
it.
don't think so either, but I think.
Because I bet you if we go through that contract with a fine tooth comb,
The
I
contract lists out
guarantee you
all
that
the
it,
things that they were supposed to do for that money.
correct, and I'm
And
sure.
this lateral stress test was not in there.
But then, yeah.
But-
okay.
So we can tell them, no, don't do the lateral stress test, but then
Well, what I'm saying,
We-
they will
okay,
not guarantee the
they
bridge
knew they had to
structure.
dig 20 feet. They should have put in there, if we have to go deeper, we have to do the laterals, so they should have.
But
And I'm sure they
But-
do, but I'm sure it's not
but here's-
specified
but-
in that
but
way.
Here's the problem with that. So if they anticipate, okay, we're gonna have to do a lateral stress test, they're gonna include this cost in the original contract. And then they don't have to do it. Well, you're still gonna pay the cost.
Well, I'm sure there's something in that contract that we're not paying for. So I'm sure there's $7,000 in there somewhere that they can, so instead of us playing with it, they're not even built the bridge yet. So who knows what they're gonna come into.
But we're not on the
But we're
hook
not
for
on the hook.
Building,
building
the
the
building part,
bridge.
this is the engineering part.
We're not, we owe nothing for building the bridge.
Okay, this is.
That's not gonna,
this was
that's
$1
just
million dollar-
You know what I'm saying?
engineering.
If they, our original contract would have been $7,000 higher, and they may not have needed to do that test. So that's why they don't include it, because they didn't think they have to, so they're not gonna bill you for something they don't think they have to do.
They would only have to barring this test failed. The initial test failed, which it did.
So I guess the alternate, the one way is you pay the $7,000 or you don't, and you hope that there's not a problem.
Well, I don't think that legally, if this test is required, they're not gonna be able to go further without the test. This isn't something that they're gonna be like, well, it should hold. They don't
Right.
do that, correct, John? I mean, you would
I
have
don't
to
know the answer
assume
for certain, but that makes perfect sense.
that
Well,
they're
nor
gonna
do
say
I
this
think-
cannot go any further without that test because that test failed, so.
Everyone,
I have a feeling we're,
to do it.
All
we're-
right.
this is
That's what I'm
either,
getting to.
you pay it,
Or-
or you might not get a bridge. That is,
I
That's what
would
it sounds
generally agree with that, yes.
Yeah,
That would be my feeling.
ODOT reviews all these design prints. We've already sent the first stage over to ODOT, they come back with some language that they wanted to know, and then they're working on the second part of the design. But ODOT reviews all the designs, okay? And if ODOT said you gotta do this stress test, it has to be done.
Well, I mean,
Or they're not gonna give us
And
no money.
honestly,
you know?
like I said, under 5% overage is something that can be expected in basically any job now. And that's an honest opinion.
I agree with you there.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Look at the project as a whole,
We
not
really have
as-
no choice.
Next week at Caucus, we'll probably have some kind of legislation adapting the amendment to their contract.
Okay.
That's all I have.
Any other questions for our safety director? Bob, I mentioned this before, and I hope that the width of this bridge down there is gonna be able to handle the flow of water that we get when we get excessive rains.
That's all been in part of the design, yes.
Okay.
For an extra cost?
Not yet.
There you go, Z-Man.
Next month.
Any other questions for our safety director? None? Motion adjourned caucus.
Make a motion.
Second, caucus adjourned.